Good
So, Marie, do
morning.
you have a
Well,
guest for us today?
I do. So, as folks may know, first of all, welcome to Ignore at Your Risk. And thank you, Mohammed, for all that you do. Great discussion so far today. So, hey, we have a treat today. In Illinois
Okay.
7, it is an open seat currently held by Congressman Danny Davis, a great public servant and civil servant, worked on a lot in Congress. He was a colleague of mine and definitely did a great service for his district. So, but he's stepping down and letting the and passing the torch, right? And we have one of those folks that's running in that seat, and that is Kina Collins from Illinois 7. And before I introduce her, I want to let you know a little bit about her background because it's an interesting one and based on my experience, a good combination for Congress. So, not only is she a well-known community organizer across things like gun violence and healthcare for all in the district, but on many other policies. She's also been a nonprofit leader and has worked across the entire Chicago area, but has a wonderful background in labor as well. So, with that, I'm going to introduce Kina Collins and welcome to the show, Kina.
Thank you, Marie. So glad to be with y'all this morning.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're pleased to have you. Kina, remind us where Illinois 7 is because not everybody, that doesn't register with everybody.
Yeah, that's a really great question. It's actually one of the very interesting districts in Illinois. It's what I would call the Chicago seat, with parts of the western suburbs. So it's all of the west side of Chicago, all of the downtown portion of the city of Chicago. It swings to the near north side, and then it goes south to south side neighborhoods like Bridgeport, Bronzeville. Chinatown is in the district, and then parts of West Englewood and Chicago Lawn, and then it spreads, you know, as far west in the suburbs as Westchester, Illinois. So Oak Park, River Forest, the Provisos, Forest Park, Maywood, Bellwood. I often like to tell people that Illinois 7 is one of the most diverse districts in the state of Illinois and yet one of the most unequal. And so it's the district that I was born and raised in, and not just the district that I was born and raised in, but the district where my dreams were made. So it's an honor of a lifetime to run and be with the voters in Illinois 7.
Well, that's a great way to describe it. And, being we're both born and bred Chicagoans, and it is one of those districts where it is a microcosm for this nature and the problem with our economic equity in this nation, right? I mean, it's like a story built for that. So given that, and I know, you have worked on many of these issues, and we hear about affordability platforms every day, right? Which I'm pleased that it is finally getting front and center after 15 years of working like it's about time. But tell us about how you would look at affordability and what would be the main ways you help the folks in your district see some of the dreams that you've been able to make in a way where it's more fair and unrigs the economy.
Yeah, I mean, I am pro small business, and I think we need to build up strong local economies, Marie. And there's a strong case to be made in Illinois 7. Illinois 7 has some of the highest recidivism rates. It is a plurality African American district. It is a growing and booming immigrant and Latino community in Illinois 7. And it's rich with so many great neighborhoods, as I said, from Greektown to Chinatown, lie within the borders of this district. And so the way that I see that is that we have to invest and incentivize people to build up these small businesses and support these small businesses. And we need to be giving the tax breaks to those guys instead of millionaires and billionaires, right? So that they are incentivized. I also think there's an opportunity in Illinois 7 to invest in the green economy that is emerging in the United States of America. 23, I believe $23 trillion in the next 10 years in the green industry, the green economy that'll be booming in the United States of America. And we're primed for that. Illinois 7 now will be housing the Googleplex, for example, in downtown Chicago that's taking over the Thompson Center. I want to see Companies that come in and build, great, we want you. But we want community benefits agreements too. We want our students in Chicago public schools and across the Illinois 7 to have the opportunity to get those internships at that Googleplex and create pathways for them to have, stable jobs.
Yeah.
I recently did an endorsement interview and they asked an interesting question about higher education. And I think it's linked to affordability. And they said, how do you envision higher education? I said it's no longer just a straight and narrow path going to university. We have to invest in trades, vocations. When we say a green economy, coding, we have to keep up with the technological age that we're in. And I think Illinois 7 is just primed to do that. All of those major headquarters lie in Illinois 7. And I want to make sure that those companies are engaging with the communities that have been hardest rocked by manufacturing being dried up on the west sides and south sides and in the western suburbs like the provisos, and give those opportunities to really hungry and smart people in our community. And so that's what I'm going to be advocating for. My parents, I don't come from a prestigious political background, Marie, as me and you know throughout the years. I come from the household of two Black manufacturing union workers. So I know what it means to stand on the side of those factory workers and how that can impact a community. I grew up with my grandparents being able to walk to their jobs at Borden's and have a pension, have health care, have a retirement plan. And those opportunities have dried up, and we've seen crime and violence drive up with it. And so we want to be preventative. And I think that investing in a strong local economy is one of those things.
So, Kina, I wanted to see if you can talk a little bit about your experience working at the Generation Progress, founding the Chicago Neighborhood Alliance, and working as the national organization for the physicians for the National Health Program. You want to talk a little bit about that background of yours and how that would help out with running for Congress and becoming a congressperson?
Yeah, I actually absolutely would. Um, I've been very fortunate that my entire career has been based around movement and social justice work in a time and a watershed moment in American history. So I've been on the precipice of that, and that's been the arc of my story. And so organizations like, and Marie highlighted this, like Generation Progress, it brought together survivors of gun violence. My story in organizing, I always tell people, organizing chose me. I didn't choose organizing.
Mhm.
As a child, I actually, as beloved as I am, and I love the Austin community, there's a tragedy there, right? I witnessed a young person gunned down in my community, and I knew the victim and I knew the shooter. And that is too far often the conversation of young people in the United States. As a matter of fact, that was over 20 years ago. And now 20 years later, the CDC has stated that gun violence is the number one way that children are dying in our country. And so Generation Progress, I served at the time I was a college student at Louisiana State University, and I served as the Louisiana State lead. And what was so interesting about that was there wasn't a single place that I went to in Louisiana where there's a plethora of gun owners where they didn't believe in red flag laws and closing the boyfriend loophole and safety storage for guns. So I learned at Generation Progress that politicians in Washington, D.C. were saying one thing, and then the people in our community really wanted to keep our community safe. And so that was a really great experience. I went on to do work, as you highlighted, at places like PNHP. So I founded the Chicago Neighborhood Alliance as an opportunity for young people and communities of color in the Chicago area to get civically engaged, who also deal with the impacts of gun violence. And we were actually very successful in the 2019 municipal elections. We endorsed about 16 candidates, and then 8 of them went on to serve in Chicago City Council. And so it really showed the power of turning and channeling that pain into power for the people in the community. And then my time at PNHP was one of the main reasons, which is Physicians for a National Health Program, was one of the main reasons that I ended up running for Congress. As a national organizer at PNHP, I trained 20,000 doctors and medical students across this country to fight for single payer Medicare for all, and a single payer universal healthcare system here in the United States, to use the power of their white coat to convince our policymakers that everybody deserves healthcare in this country. And healthcare is a human right. And
Mhm.
I always tell my supervisors, my former supervisors, and the presidents of PNHP that they ruined me in the best way possible, because I will never look at the private insurance industry the same after working with these physicians who believed deeply that healthcare was a human right. And so I traveled to the ports of entry in San Diego, the steel mill workers. We talked to steel mill workers in Pennsylvania. We talked to teachers unions down south, and we talked to folks here on the south side of Chicago, and everybody had the same story. People were fighting between paying for their food, their rent or mortgage, and just their prescription drugs every month. People were rationing their insulin and cutting blood pressure pills in half. And that, for all the talk that people do about the left being radicalized, no, that radicalized me. It radicalized me that you could be bankrupt not because of money mismanagement, but because you got sick. And so during that time, I had to do power rankings of our congressional members who were taking corporate PAC dollars from big pharmaceutical companies, and kind of the lobby that was stopping the progress of the Medicare for All bills in Congress. And I was so shocked to see how many Democrats were on that list, even in our own state
Mhm.
in Illinois, where we know this is an important issue. And so, in my district, where we have one of the largest death gaps in America between Streeterville and West Englewood, a 30-year life gap based off of a 30-minute car ride, to me, that was criminal. It was unconstitutional. And those are the type of stories that we have to bring to Congress to actually implement change.
So,
You raised so
so
many
glad
good
to hear
points
that.
there.
And Marie, sorry, I kind of jumped in and asked her a couple of questions. Please go ahead. I think
Oh
you.
my gosh, that's okay. And I'm so glad you asked her that question because I was
Yeah.
riveted. So thank you,
Okay.
Kina. So because this is a heart spot of mine, you and I have had many conversations about this, is that the fact that in this country that medical debt is the first and second largest form of debt in the nation right now. It has now surpassed credit card debt. We are in a position now where um, this is creating us, our mortality rate keeps on getting worse, right? And our quality of care keeps on getting worse. And what I would say is that there is no turning back now. We must have single payer, and it must be something like Medicare for all. I'm open to a few permutations of that, but if we don't get down to a single payer that is not profit driven, we are all going to get sicker, and more folks will die. It's just really simple. Before I let you go, Kina, I really want you to talk about one more thing or two more things. So first of all,
Ooh.
Oh, we lost
Sorry,
Marie.
we lost Marie over there. I
Uh,
think Marie will rejoin us.
While,
So,
while we're
Kina, one
waiting,
of the yeah, go ahead, Reed.
while we're waiting for Marie to get back on the line, I would like to ask Ms. Collins a question, if I could.
Yes.
You've already answered so many of the questions I had, and it's a delight to have you here with us this morning. Thank you. Um, what do you, we're witnessing the dismantling of the Department of Education. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are about federal responsibility towards public education on the elementary, secondary, and post-secondary levels.
I mean, education is a civil right. And if we don't look at it like that, we know that the GOP has played this long game, and they've played the wide game to dismantle the Department of Education. And we also know that education is the great equalizer across the United States of America. So, first and foremost, we have to educate the public about what is happening because people aren't understanding the dynamics. And in layman's terms, Democrats have to do a better job at coming out and saying, this is actually what's going to happen now that the Department of Education is being dismantled. Title I funds that fund low income communities to make sure that their schools stay open. We know all about that here in Chicago. Rahm Emanuel executed the largest public school shutdown in American history in 2012 right here in the city of Chicago, right? And it had dramatic impacts and consequences and negative implications for future generations of people. So we have to do the advocacy part of educating people about what that means. We have to protect the vulnerable populations of students in in education, which includes our students with special needs and disabilities. We're forgetting that they will slip through the cracks if they do not get this funding. And if it's one hill that I'm going to die on, it's behind those students. They deserve a solid shot at life, and getting an education is the foundation and the basis for that. On the post-secondary and higher education level, we have to cancel student loan debt. We talk about affordability. This crushing debt is some of the most vicious debt that you can have because the interest continues to grow. There's no cap on how big your debt will balloon with student loan debt. We have to make college accessible and affordable for people to attend to. So things that I'm going to advocate for and what I think the Fed needs to be doing is to reopen the Department of Education, make sure that we're advocating for that funding. But we also need to protect that civil rights department of the Department of Education to say there is a legal precedent set forth in our Constitution and from our Supreme Court that people have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and getting an education is a part of that.
I
Well,
really,
Kina,
really appreciate your
Maria
answer.
Mozaffar has also joined us.
Hi, Maria.
Maria has a segment starting in a few minutes on breaking the echo chamber. But I think, Maria, I would love to get you into this conversation with Kina also. And if you could do a quick introduction of who you are so Kina knows what your background is.
Well, Kina Collins knows
Who
me
are
very
you?
Who are you? Okay.
We don't need
I
any
was I was
introduction.
talking more about our listeners, so they have a feel for. Okay.
So yeah, no. Kina Collins knows who I am, but of course I've been doing the echo chamber for a while now. But as a reminder, I'm a legislative attorney, and I focus on policies and breaking the echo chamber on legislation, so we can look beyond the political divide. I will say to jump into this conversation really fast, Kina Collins understands very well the power of legislation and the different nuts and bolts of it. She actually helped draft with me the Illinois Council of Women and Girls in Illinois. So I'm happy to see, Kina, that you're doing the work that needs to be done in so many different facets. I wanted to talk to you about kind of piggyback on what you said about the Department of Education and Civil Rights, specifically about the ADA. So, breaking down the Department of Education, I don't think people necessarily connect the deconstruction of the ADA and what that would cause, because the Department of Education can actually oversee how the ADA is implemented and monitored, right, in all these classrooms. And so, what you're actually doing is you're taking away the legs away from the agencies that could actually implement the ability for these students to be protected. And I know I go back to this again and again, but we have to look at it from this lens. When we are able to scrap these types of programs that affect individuals that are protected by civil rights legislations, as recently as the ADA, that has brought so much improvement in so many areas of children's lives. What you're basically saying is that you're using the collapse of these agencies to rob them of their civil rights. That's how we have to see it. And we see them as individuals that are dehumanized. I have to say this again and again, because there is going to be a hierarchy when you allow students of special needs to be put to the side versus other students. And that was what the ADA was created to do. So I just want to reaffirm what Kina is saying, is that the shutting down of the Department of Education directly relates to putting students of special need to the side, which is something we cannot afford.
Well, it is a violation too, Maria, because The IDEA Act is the Individuals with Disability Education Act. And so these are actual laws that are being violated. And that act basically ensures that those who have disabilities have the ability to a free and public education. And so these are our tax dollars, right? This is not just that it is politically and from a policy standpoint wrong. It is fiscally wrong. It is going to impact the economy. The more we do not have a trained, educated workforce, and we are pipelining our students to keep up with the ever-changing scientific world, but it is morally wrong. This is morally wrong. As a foundational Black American, my heritage and lineage is that my ancestors, it was illegal for them to know how to read. And we fought really hard as a people to have access to education. This administration knows exactly what they're doing. And we have to get to the public to say, this doesn't just impact one community. This is all of our fight.
Tina, you and I need to have a long talk on some of the things, because I was in workforce and economic development for the last 30 years. And I've seen some of the impact that you're talking about as far as education relating to the workforce is concerned. And especially you also brought up, people who have been incarcerated, getting back into the workforce. There have been, numerous programs that I've worked with in the past on that, along with also the co-founder of the Illinois Reshoring Initiative with Harry Moser. So we are trying to bring manufacturing back to the country. A lot of stuff that we can talk. Marie, thank you so much for bringing in for Kina for this conversation today. You are muted, so if you can please unmute yourself, Marie.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So, Kina, before you go, can you share where folks can learn more about your platform and your positions?
Yep, you all can go to KinaCollinsIL.com. And I just want to thank Marie once again for inviting me, this distinguished panel of folks. Thank you for having these conversations right now, because these are the bold and brave conversations that we have to keep to the forefront. I think the whole goal is to keep us quiet, keep us confused and beaten down and tired. And the way that we beat back that is by continuing to share these ideas, continue to advocate for these ideas, and to fight for them. So I'm just so grateful. Maria, it's always so great to see you. She's such a warrior for social justice and human rights. And I was so lucky to meet her early on in my career, to see how hard she works. So I'm so excited. And thank you. I would love to come back anytime. Please call
Oh, please do. We'd love to have you again, have an extended conversation. So Kina, stay safe on the trail, and please come back in January and give us an update on the race.
Will do.
We've got,
Thank you.
What, about 15 people in the race now for the 7th district?
That's crazy. That's crazy. It's crazy.
I've been following that for a while now.
Thank you.
Biggest challenge, fundraising. How are you doing on that?
Great. It's not our first rodeo. Like Marie said, I'm glad she opened up how she did. Representative Davis stepping down was an important part to the next generation of leadership. We started a while ago, as Maria knows too. We started a while ago because we felt that when Representative Davis did retire, it was important to have that base of people to say these ideas need to be injected into the primary. And so we feel very confident about it. And so thank you. Thank you for asking. We're doing well. We're doing well.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
Thank you again for joining us.
Ms. Collins, don't say you're doing great on campaign funding, because you can always use more money. Don't give them the wrong impression.
I'm doing awful. Please send me more money.
And it was a great pleasure talking to you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, folks. We are